Welcome, friends. I'm Janine Pettit, co host of the Girl Camper podcast. Today's show is all about my first full season as a seasonal camper. What did I like? What did I dislike? And am I doing it again next year? Stay tuned. Welcome back, friends. It's so fun to be here today, and I'm excited to share with you the progress I made as a seasonal camper. So, at the beginning of the season, one of the first return podcasts that I did was why I made the decision to become a seasonal camper. We'll put that link in the show notes so you can go back to that original show. But before I get into the likes and dislikes, I just want to do a quick review of why I made that choice to begin with. I think it's a choice that many people in my age group, and there is an age group that gravitate not only the empty nesters, sometimes the people with very young kids, but for me as an empty nester, this seemed to me like a wise choice at this time. One of the very first reasons was because I still work full time. So this was the summer I turned 65. I'm on Medicare now. I'm not getting a Social Security check yet because I still work full time. But it's just really is a new stage in life, but still working full time. Even though I'm self-employed and make my own hours, I still can't just do whatever I want all the time. I have a lot of obligations. There's a lot of moving parts at Girl Camper. And I just don't have the freedom that I had 10 years ago when I started the podcast. That was in 2015. So it'll mark 10 years this coming a year from now, next November, that the Girl Camper podcast started. Well, Girl Camper at that time was a podcast. And, not even a website, it was more like a blog, a WordPress blog. Now when you look at what we got going on, I can't do that in the 10 or 15 hours a week that I used to give to Girl Camper 10 years ago. It turned into a real, actual full-time job with a lot of obligations. So, I'm so glad in that period between 2017, really when my youngest graduated from high school, and when COVID hit, I I mean, I took off like the law was after me. I did not look back. I had a lot of fun and probably did 30,000 miles in like a 5-year period, just going to national parks, seeing things that I went to, finally getting west of the Mississippi because everything was like East Coast. I mean, if I went down to Tennessee or the Smokies, 5, 6, 7 hours away, that was a big trip. When I took off, I got a lot under my belt, and I'm so glad I saw all that because now my life has changed and I am not able to do those things. And so that had a big impact on me deciding to take a seasonal site. Another thing about the seasonal site for me is I just never lost that desire to go camping. So, you hit April, even March in New Jersey, and that bug is getting you. Everybody's unloading their campers or de-winterizing their campers. I had a very strong desire to get out there and do things, but the whole process of getting my camper ready got really old for me. I downsized and I live in a townhouse now. And it used to be in my driveway. My husband would hook it up for me, or I was in it a lot during the week. So I would be able to just go out there during the week and prep things. Now my RV is in a storage unit about 25 miles from my house. So getting it ready is an ordeal. So by the time Friday comes and I gotta go down there, pack it, I have to bring everything from my house because I don't want to backtrack and come 25 miles up here towing the camper. Anyway, for me, the idea of the instant gratification of getting to the campground, having the RV there, just unlocking it. It's plugged in all week, although I always turn off the water when I leave, but the electric is running. My fridge is cold. My food is in there. Unlock the door. I'm done. Open a few windows, put out my awning, light a fire. That instant gratification, that was very, very appealing to me. So that was another one of the reasons. Um, 3, more time with family. So in the years that I was running around, honestly, my family was running around. My kids were at that age where they were kind of fresh out of college, building careers. They weren't married. They didn't have their own children yet. And they they couldn't care less what I was doing. They were living their lives as they should be. I was living my life, you know? And if we caught the kids on a weekend once a month, that was great. Now they all kind of live back on the East Coast again. Both of my sons are married. They've got little babies. I really wanted to just be closer and nearby in case we had an opportunity. And I thought that the RV too and the camper would really lure them down. More on that later. But my idea was I did not want to be in Tennessee or at the Smokies or 5 hours from home on a weekend. I wanted to be nearby. So if the kids were doing something on Sunday afternoon, I could leave the campground early and hit them on the way home. So more time with family and friends. Number 4, I looked at what was going on real estate wise in my area, and I thought, it's not affordable. We always thought when the kids left home and we got rid of our big house that we would buy. I'm not a Jersey Shore person, not much of a beach person, but I grew up in the Midwest and we did a lot of lake camping and fishing in Minnesota, Wisconsin, that area growing up, the Indiana dunes. I love a cabin in the woods. And I thought, we'll get something on a little lake somewhere. Well, then the prices just went through the roof. And I realized too that anything that was further than like an hour and a half from my house, I wasn't getting full time working kids to come to anyhow. So that kind of began to lose its appeal. So for me, the idea of an RV in a seasonal site, I could have the best of both worlds. I could have a little home away from home. It's going to cost 1/10 of what it would cost. I wouldn't have any kind of mortgage on it. What I pay for the seasonal site wouldn't be the property taxes on anything I could have purchased. So it was a way of getting that escape hatch and ditch the home and get away place without having to invest a lot of money. The other thing I liked about that is if I decided, 5 years from now, I don't want to be down in the Jersey Shore anymore. I want to go to the mountains. I don't have to sell it and buy something new someplace else. I can just pick it up and move it to a new location. Also, if I decided to give it up altogether, I could just sell the trailer and be done. I didn't have to worry about a property and inspections and selling it and who's buying it and codes and all of that stuff. So to me, it made a lot of sense to make this the home away from home that I had always dreamed of having. Oh, let me see. Number 5, workstation. So I do work from home. Now, that being said, obviously, if you follow me on social media, you know I'm gone a lot. That's true, from like March through October, November. When I am home in the winter, though, I could go a little bonkers. The cabin fever really sets in, and I took a seasonal site on a campground that anyone with a seasonal site can use their camper. I could go there. They keep one of the bathrooms open and the heat on in the bathroom. So even if my RV was winterized, I could go down, turn on the propane, turn on my space heaters, be down there, have a meal that I get rid of on paper plates and still enjoy the RV in the winter. So I really like the idea of this kind of like workstation, a place I could go record the podcast. I do a lot of videos for our partners, and I like the idea of being able to go down there and there's my fire pit. There's my pile of wood. Here's my outdoor kitchen. I don't have to gather all that stuff, set up a trailer. So it's kind of like a work office for me too, because of the kind of work that I do. So I really like that idea of having a workstation. The last reason that was on my list was the age of my truck. So follow me on this one. Years and years ago, gosh, I don't, it was more than 10 years ago. I remember doing a podcast when my F-150, I believe that truck was a 2003 or a 2004. It died on my way to an event on the Pennsylvania Turnpike through a rod. It had to do with the year of my F-150. It was a problem. Even though it looked beautiful on the outside, it was perfect on the inside. It wasn't replaceable. The engine it could not be repaired in that particular model. I loved that truck so much, and it took me about 6 months to replace it, and I have had my 2014 F-150 now for 8 years, I think, because I did buy it 2 or 3 years old. Anyway, it's got 165,000 miles on it, still hanging in. I've never made a serious repair on that thing, but I am babying it. So I didn't want to be towing a lot on it. I, have my little vintage camper, and I usually stay pretty local, someplace in New Jersey or Eastern Pennsylvania with that, but I really wanted to kind of baby the truck and see how many more years I can get out of it. So, those were some of my reasons for choosing a seasonal site. So, I chose a seasonal site with our friends and our partners at Spacious Guys, and I gotta tell you, I am so pleased with this campground on so many levels. This is not a paid endorsement. This is just my gut feeling on that campground. I went there to camp like anybody else. I had never been down to that campground. We just hosted an event there. I started walking around and I was like, I really like how rustic this campground is. I like how simple it is. All Spacious Guys campgrounds, I've been to a couple of them now. It's their kind of like vibe. It's not overdone. It doesn't have slippery slides in lazy river pools. It's kind of a low key kind of family campground. So I have really enjoyed the campground itself. One of the ways I look at that campground or any campground, just seasonal camping, is it's kind of like camping plus. So I get down there and I get the things that I love about camping, which is the fire. And just, I went down about 2 weeks ago and I was kind of tired. And it was a Saturday afternoon and I had been away and I flew home on Friday night and I had stuff to do at my house on Saturday morning. And then I just thought it was late and I thought it was like 4:30. Well, the campground's only an hour and a half away from me. And I thought, you know what? Let's just drive down to the campground tonight. And I thought maybe I'll be too tired. Ugh. Anyway, pull into the campground at like 6:30 and get out of my car. I smell everybody's fire. It's the first like really crisp fall night. I was so happy that I went down there. So I love the campfire. I love just cooking at the campground. I love having meals that I wouldn't bother to cook at home. But to me, it's camping plus because I get the food trucks on Saturdays and Sundays. I get the pool that I don't have to maintain. I get events that they're big on the events there. And I'm surprised at the number of them that I have participated in down there because I'm currently at a stage of life where it's just like, hey, I've worked all week. I've peopled all week. I just want to sit by my fire. But always end up kind of wandering down to International Food Night to see what's going on. And then I start talking to someone, and then the whole evening is gone by. So for me, one of the things that I have really liked is I get all these things I like in campgrounds, and I get a little extra. Someone's bringing me a truck and maintaining that pool for me, and I have sat by the pool a lot. And I have a pool in my development here. I was only in it one time this year. I spent a lot of Saturdays all day sitting at the pool and floating and chatting with people and really chilling in a way that I just don't do at home, even though I have that option here. So camping plus to me. Another like for me with the seasonal has been a little bit of a surprise too, and that is how much fun I had with all the neighbors at the campground. Our next door neighbors, Gail and Charlie, have turned out to be really, really fun people. And we keep an eye on each other's RVs. Like I was away in my first very cheap Easy Up did a crash in a storm. And, they tidied it all up for me because they knew I was on my Green River rafting trip and I wouldn't be back. Their dog has free reign to come to my site. I love their dog. I'm probably breaking their rules because they're trying to train him, but I love their dog. We just love sitting around the fire with them. Last Sunday, we were down there and Charlie and my husband were watching the Eagles game and Gail and I were chatting. I just have really enjoyed the camaraderie of people kind of like in my age group and people who enjoy the outdoors and camping and getting to know some of our neighbors. And so that part has been really satisfying. I've really liked it. The third thing on my like list, and this is specific to me and not seasonal camping itself, is the drive. So this campground is down in Dorothy, New Jersey. It's a back roads drive down there. It's about an hour and a half from my house, but I generally stop to see my son and daughter-in-law and the babies before I head down there. So when I leave their house, it's about an hour and 5-minute drive and it's all on the back roads, and I get down there, getting down on 206 South, I start getting into the blueberry farms and the farm stands, and I can just feel it all coming down. I'm so happy that it just worked out this way, where I'm absolutely never on a highway to get down to the campground, and I just enjoy the ride, so I don't dread the ride. I have a lot of friends with seasonal sites who are like, "Oh, well, when we get over the bridge and we get past this exit, it'll be okay." But it was a long jam till there. I have never hit traffic. It's always an hour and 10 minutes, and I always get home very quickly. So the drive has been a real plus for me. Now, the location of this campground, this could be different for everybody, but I'm talking about my own experience here. It is tourist adjacent. So there's so many campgrounds in South Jersey, not so many in North or Central Jersey. When you get into Southern New Jersey, so many campgrounds. I did not want to be at a campground on the Jersey Shore or even 5 miles away. Spacious Guys Country Oaks is what I call tourist adjacent. So I can be down in my favorite town, Cape May, New Jersey, in about 45 minutes from that campground. In fact, I often go to church there on Sunday because that was our church when our kids were little. And then spend the day in Cape May, go to Uncle Bill's Pancake House for breakfast, or I'll wind my way back home up Route 9, going back toward the campground where all my favorite junking and antique shops are from years ago. It has been so much fun exploring those areas and again because we had a house in Cape May when our kids were little. And so I love the fact that I can go there if I want. We had the team, Lisa McDermott from Girl Camper and Risa Leppert, who is our Girl Camper guide manager. We were all at the Hershey RV show when we went down to the camper and we had a work weekend and we had a lot of fun. But on Saturday night at about 4:30, I said to them, everybody in the car, I can't let you leave town without taking you to the Jersey Shore. And we went to the Wildwood Boardwalk, and it was so much fun. Just all the food and the people and the action, and I hadn't been there in years. So it's there if I want it, but I'm not dealing with the traffic and the people and the prices associated with having things in the tourist area. So to me, this tourist adjacent kind of place, and I do love the back roads. I love that there is a farm stand 3.7 miles from the campground, a Dollar General that is a fairly decent grocery store, believe it or not. And there's also an ice cream parlor about a mile further down the road with excellent ice cream. And it's just fun to go there. So we get a little bit of the things you want when you're on a weekend away, but I'm not dealing with all of the traffic and the people and the prices and the crowds. So that has been a good thing for me. I've already talked about how this campground for me is sort of a rustic kind of campground. It's got, I believe, 75 seasonal sites and about 75 uh, for rent sites, day trippers or weekenders. So I like that the campground has a pool. It's got the food trucks and the activities. It's got a really nice pavilion. They play bingo on some nights. There's usually something going on in the pavilion on a Saturday morning for the kids. I love that stinking bouncy pillow. And I actually go down there myself because that's pretty cardio. We have fun on that thing, but it's not overdone. It's not lights and glare and a lot of noise. It stays pretty quiet on the evenings. In the summer, it's full of families and kids, and they're riding bikes and have that does not bother me. Kids at the campground, beeping horns, riding their bikes in and out, shouting and screaming. It all calms down pretty early, like 9:30, 10 o'clock. You can hear fires going, you can hear laughing going on. But the campground does enforce speed laws. They are really strict about speeding at that campground, and they do enforce noise. It's not too often that someone has to come out and say, "Hey, you guys, it's way past quiet hours, tone it down." I find that the campground in general is pretty peaceful, and I really like that. The last thing on my really love list really for seasonal camping is how much I have enjoyed being there on weekdays. It is absolutely beautiful and quiet. I did not think. I was thinking when I got it, well, this will be fun on weekends. It turns out I have ended up going down there during the week more often than I end up going down there on a weekend. A lot of times it's empty on the weekend or my nieces and nephews have made really great use of it on weekend, and I'm home on the weekend. So I find that the being down there on a weeknight is very, very quiet and peaceful, and I really love that. All right, that's my list of things I have loved about seasonal camping. We have a break right now. We're going to hear from one of our favorite sponsors, and we thank them for helping us bring the Girl Camper podcast to you. Stay tuned.
Curt Echo Mobile Brake Controller is a world-first mobile Bluetooth brake controller that can give you an entirely new towing experience. It's easily plug and play into your RV wiring harness with no tools required. It connects wirelessly and syncs with your smartphone to control and monitor all trailer brake activities. Its compact, portable design allows for easy transfer from one vehicle to another and convenient storage when it's not in use. Check it out in the complete family of Echo units to find the best fit for your towing setup.
Thank you so much. We are so thrilled to have our sponsors, and we're so grateful that they have always had Girl Campers back, and we love having them on the show. All right, I want to go over a few things that I have sort of disliked about seasonal camping. And when I say dislike, that might be a strong word. I don't think anything is perfect. And so you've got to kind of weigh the pros and cons when you're deciding it's the reason I made this. I might have something that is just like is a real drudgery for me, but could be nothing for you. Okay, the first thing that I kind of did not anticipate about seasonal camping is that the RV is it is like having a house. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done on it. So I had a lot of traveling this summer, and sometimes I would not be down at the campground for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Now, the camper was being used because I am very happy to say that several of my nieces and nephews were always like, Aunt Janine, if the camper's not being used, can we go down? Yes, yes, yes. I want it used. And shout out to Spacious Skies because their guest policies are very friendly and it's not a hassle. I had a seasonal site once before and you could only have 4 guests. They had to be registered ahead of time. Nobody else could come if they weren't on that list, and it's not like that at all. It's very user friendly. So, the camper was being used, but people who don't own it aren't gonna know what to do. So, I would get home and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I really just wanna crash and kinda recover from all this traveling," but I'm like, I gotta get down there. I gotta make sure the tanks were properly cleaned. I've gotta make sure the slide outs are all the way out, that they brought the awning in. There's just stuff that you have to do, and it's not a set it and forget it, you know? Usually when I get down there, if my husband comes down with me, between the 2 of us, It takes us about a half an hour. Turn on the water, get the water running inside the camper. Every once in a while, there's an odor, and I don't know if it got uh, um, the tanks emptied properly because we have a little instructions sheet. But if you're not an RVer, maybe you didn't do it. Anyway, we've got stuff that we've just got to do when we get down there and get the water running, check around. My husband is immediately with the weed whacker and the blower, getting the site clean, opening things up. We've got a little easy up there. So it's not a set it and forget it. Just like your house at home, we get up on Saturday mornings and there's tasks that need to be done. I got to take garbage down, and there's a lot of weeds and a lot of gravel and a lot of sticks and a lot of clutter. And it's just, you're living in the woods outside. So if you want any kind of level of organization, you got stuff you have to do. So there is RV maintenance. I've got to get down there every time there's a storm or heavy rain. I want to get down there and make sure everything made it okay. I will say that Jimmy, our RV maintenance guy, he has given me his cell phone. So nice of him. And I'll say, Jimmy, can you swing by my site and look at it? And he'll say it all looks good. And that's been lovely. And that's just been a wonderful thing. Or he'll say to me, hey, your Easy Up has a lot of water in it. I poked it and drained it, but it's fine for now. But he'll let me know what's going on. The second thing that has turned out to be a kind of a little disappointment for me is that I am not using my vintage camper the way I used to, because you don't really need two campers. Although that 1963 Nomad of mine, which I bought from my friend Jean like a year and a half ago, it's a jewel box. It's my genie's bottle. It is my dream RV. The first time I walked into that when I was camping with Jean in Alabama and she invited me to sleep over in her camper with her, I had like a visceral reaction. I mean, my heart was pounding. I just loved everything about that RV. It reminded me of when I was a kid and all the RVs that we'd see. Of all the vintage RVs I've had, I've never seen one that well done, and she had it virtually frame off restored. It's got a new axle, it's got new tires, all the skin was taken off, reworked inside, new wiring, new plumbing, new insulation, new skin put back on, all the joints done, every window take new air conditioner put in it, hot water on demand, showered. It is absolutely perfect, and I've only used it 2 times this year. Know what I'm gonna do about it? I can't let it go. So, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about whether I wanna put it on a seasonal site and rent it or allow friends to use it. I don't even know if that's allowed, but it has been sitting in a storage space. I visited it yesterday because 'cause I'm gonna camp next weekend in it, and that'll be my 3rd time out, and my daughter and her boyfriend used it once, so it's been used 4 times this year. So I'm not ready to let that go. It's just such a special RV, and to own something like that is just I don't wanna let it go. Not there, not there. So, I don't know what I'm gonna do about that, but that is something. Okay, the RV that I did choose, my fifth wheel Cougar 29 BHL. Absolutely love it, and we always say this about RVs. When you are choosing one and you're walking around, and I've done all kinds of podcasts on that, I've talked about it in RV shows 100 times. There are things that I know about my family and the way they camp, and we looked at those things. And, I had a price point, I had a budget, I had restrictions. I couldn't get a 45-foot fifth wheel toy hauler. I had parameters. And that was the one that I thought would work best for us. And when I'm down there by myself, or I'm down there with my husband, or maybe one of my daughters or a girlfriend, it's fine. It is fine for 2 people. When the kids were all down there, we took a family vacation and everybody came, and the vintage camper was set up on another site. And I had Carol's camper, and we all had this big birthday party weekend. It was so tight in there, and it was nice out, and we had good weather, so we didn't need to congregate inside. But the whole TV viewing thing that I do, like, especially now in the fall, and now time has changed and it gets dark out, and you wanna watch a movie, I went with the love seat instead of the two stadium chairs. I wish I hadn't done that because you don't really sit three people on that. So I wish at least I had kept the stadium chairs and they reclined. And so that was a regret. I wish I had gone up a little bigger. So the bunkhouse in my Cougar is fine. It has a full bed that folds out. But my girlfriends tell me when you get up in the morning, you really have to fold that bottom bunk bed, a full size bed, in order to have any floor space to change and do things. So I kind of wish now that I know, and you don't know until you're living in it, that I had gone with a different kind of bunkhouse. I was more imagining that I would use that like an office. I've never used it as an office once. I just sit at the kitchen table. So anyway, I have had no problems with the RV. I'm very happy about that. It, everything worked, and I know I had it inspected twice before I got it. Everything worked, and I never had a single glitch with it. So I haven't had any problems with that. It's just not maybe the floor plan I would have chosen. And now I am considering going to a destination camper. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. One thing I did not like is Halloween month at the camp. I am so not a Halloween person, and I never have. I know it's kind of a big thing on the internet now about how creepy and scary and ghoulish Halloween has become. I said that when my kids were little, and now it's like 10 times worse or better, depending on your point of view. I mean, kids love it. I do not like all the ghoulish stuff, and they do up Halloween at Spacious. I'm telling you. October is my favorite month to camp, and every single weekend they had parades, they had trick-or-treating, they had ghoulish dances. The kids there had a blast. It was absolutely packed. The kids combined trick-or-treat. Who doesn't love a kid trick-or-treating? But it was a ton of people having a blast. For me, the way to handle that was for me to go down during the week. I did one weekend down there in the month of October, and it really was fun for a lot of the kids. I don't enjoy Halloween. So, I think you're gonna find that whatever campground you're at, but that's the great thing about a seasonal site. I just went down during the week. The last thing that turned out to be a problem for me in 2024 was that I was overscheduled. Now, I booked that last year in October. I took that site last October when I was there camping and I was walking around. I was looking at the seasonal sites going, oh my God, like this light bulb just went off. This is what I should be doing. I can't do this. Hitch and towing, working every weekend, Friday night, trying to get this thing down there. On an impulse, I went to the camp store and I said, do you have any sites? They showed me two that were available. I took the bigger one, which turned out to be the better one because it's in a nice quiet corner back there and I love all my neighbors. Well, the problem is that I am booked like a year in advance with things that I have to do for work and travel commitments that I had. So I went to Alaska in July. I went to Utah in June, rafting. I went to Morocco in September, October. It was just a lot of running around this summer, so I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So for 2025, Janine is staying put. Now, those are my likes and dislikes. I'm going to come back in a minute after we hear from our other sponsor, and I'm going to talk to you for 5 more minutes just about some of the things that you need to think about before you decide to go seasonal. Hang on for a message from our sponsor.
Make it a trip to remember and leave your worries behind. The Rockerball Trailer Ball is built to get you and your loved ones there comfortably and safely. Its dynamic cushion technology is proven to reduce jerking, jarring, and road noise, giving you the control and confidence to enjoy every mile along the way. Pass on the spirit of adventure with a Curt Rockerball.
Thank you so much. We're so happy that we have these sponsors, and we're so thrilled that you're on board with Girl Camper, and we thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, just some quick things I want people to know about seasonal. Some of them I knew, some of them came as a little bit of a surprise. And that is there are added expenses. So the seasonal sites down at Spacious Skies, depending on where you are, can run anywhere from like $4,800 to like $5,800, something like that. So once you get that, you have other expenses though. You have got to pay for your own electric. I just got my bill yesterday. It was $21. And let me tell you, I really, really run my electric space heater, that little fireplace in my living room. I've only had the propane heat on one time. I just really heavily rely on that in the morning to take the chill off. And I do not hold back on the air conditioner. I do not like to be uncomfortable, and I'll run that thing 24/7. I've never had a bill higher than $21. That was my biggest one. They don't have cable at mine, but you've got to supplement to get decent Wi-Fi if you have a streaming television. I didn't do that because I don't really watch television. It does have a CD player, a DVD player in it, and so maybe over the course of this summer, we've watched 3 or 4 movies in there, but I am gonna do that for next year. It didn't have a Wi-Fi ready, streaming television in it when it came. So, Camping World put the television in. That's some deal, Keystone had with them. I didn't think to ask, is it gonna be Wi-Fi, Netflix, Roku TV? You just assume it is, and it wasn't. So, that's gotta come out next year, and I'm gonna get a booster, and I'll be able to watch that. So, those are expenses, not giant, but they are. The other thing is the infrastructure on your site is on you. So, after supper, when I take a walk around the campground, I am like, okay, I like that. I like that. And it's kind of good to sit there for a year and decide what do I like? What do I not like? So I've got a couple of sites there that I'm looking at and I'm like, I like the way they did that. So your pea gravel, your structures, a lot of people have an easy up, not easy up because that's a canvas top. They actually buy the patio covers from Home Depot or Lowe's that are much more substantial and they cost about $1,500. I didn't do any of that this year. I was just kind of playing it low, seeing what I like. Next year, I'm going to invest in my infrastructure, but I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna upgrade the RV. So I don't wanna do too much until I get the RV that I want on the site and then invest in it because 'cause I'm not gonna put in pea gravel and decking and then pull the thing out and have to put something new in. But if you get a seasonal site, the deck now you can have second level decks built up to your door. You can only have flat patio decks there. So there's rules on every different campground, but the infrastructure is on you. Any storage little building where you keep your fire stuff, your weed whacker, all of that stuff, that's all on you. So you gotta do that. Now this year I ended up buying a really heavy I bought a cheap, easy up. It didn't last 3 weeks. First storm took it down. I got the really heavy duty, like, $600 Easy Up. Takes 5 people to set the thing up. It weighs a ton. It has held through every storm, everything. It's been great. It's only 10 by 10. We just have our picnic table under it, but I like it. It has my little lights on it. I had to buy a weed whacker. I You're in charge of your own grass over there. So I somehow thought that they were gonna mow the lawn. I had quite a bit of grass behind me. That's on you. So you gotta move that. The other thing I ended up having to buy is the battery operated leaf blower. Everything I have is the Ryobi with the green batteries. So I have several batteries charging all the time, and I can usually clean up the site pretty quickly. And I didn't buy a super expensive one. I think the weed whacker was like $119, but it's the lawnmower. I mean, that's what we mow the lawn with. I also upgraded my fire pit because they have one of those rings in there that's like the well of a the truck ones. They come off a truck. It was about 3 or 4 inches shorter than the wood I got delivered from the agency, the company that Spacious Skies uses. So The wood didn't fit in there. It was very frustrating. I bought a nice one that's a little elevated off the ground. I can't cook on that one, so that might be temporary too. We'll have to see what happens. So easy up, weed whacker, leaf blower, fire pit. I finally put my screen room. I forget what you call those things. The ones that pop open real easy. Can't think of it now. Clamshell. I've had that in my storage bin for like 4 years. I bought it on clearance and I never used it once. And I've had it up all summer long. And it's really nice to tuck everything in. I paid $90 for the sides that go on that. So it's all buttoned up when I'm gone. And that was a good investment too. So that is one of the things you have to keep in mind. Guest fees. So every seasonal site has a different policy. We had a seasonal site out in Lancaster, PA. As I said before, we could only have 4 people on the list, and we couldn't have anybody other than those 4 people. It just wasn't allowed. You weren't allowed to give your magnetic card to let the door open and the gate open and close. It was not friendly to the owner of the site. We felt like guests at our site. So I did not like that. What I love about Spacious Guys is I don't have to call them up and say, we're having my nephew's using it. My nephew used it 2 or 3 times. And I just said, please go in, register at the office. They pay $10 for each day. So when my nephew and his wife went down with their 2 kids, they paid $40, $10 for each adult per day. So for $40, they got the use of the pool, the food trucks, the all the things there, and the kids had a blast playing all the games. They went down on one of the Halloween weekends and cuckoo, loved it. The cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, the kids went nuts. The next thing is winter use. So winter use varies. Now, Spacious Guys last year stayed open year round for the first time. You can book a site there and camp there, but if you're a seasonal site, you can go to your camper anytime. So if it's a 60-degree day in February, I could go down there and stay a day or two. I still have use of the camper itself. The electric is on. They keep a bathroom open and heated. So I think that's a great option, and I really like that. The other thing I liked about Spacious Skies, and this is different everywhere, if I had to take my RV offsite, I don't have anything that tows that. So I would have to pay to have it moved to a storage space. I can just keep it there, and the fee for keeping it on site is $200. If had it stored by me, it's $200 a month. So it's there, it's in a community where they're not gated over there, but the camp manager lives on site. The young man, Jimmy, who takes care of that site and the whole campground, they have projects going on all winter long. If something happened, somebody would call me and tell me. It's not unattended, so I do like that. Another thing you have to know about seasonal camping is you need to take a look at the contract and really go over it with a fine-tooth comb. I have heard really widely ranging variations of rules in a campground. Some of them felt like to me like absolutely like I couldn't go along with that. Others are very low key. So take a look at a contract for anywhere you're thinking of and really take a look at every little thing on there and make sure there's nothing in the fine print that you would not find, disagreeable. So that is my year of seasonal campground. I signed my contract for next year. Next year, it is my intention to really clear my schedule to be free to go down there more. And I'm really looking forward to it. I am so surprised that I loved it as much as I did. I will say that surprisingly, my 2 daughters who work in the city loved it way more than I thought they would. They were down more often than my through hiking son and his kids. They came down 1 or 2 times and were like, oh, the kids might get a tip. Don't touch that. I can't believe this is my son who through hiked the Appalachian Trail. He is so worried about the kids falling, getting ticks on them, being near the pool. Uh, so I don't think they're going to use it the way I did, thought they would. But the rest of my family has really loved it, and the nieces and nephews are going crazy for it. So it's a win for me in terms of getting more family and friends, and that's why I got it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on my seasonal camping for the year. That's our show for today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on where else are we? Join our community. Go over to girlcamper.com. If you haven't been vetted and you don't know where our locations are, where we're hosting events, we have 25 Girl Camper guides all over the country, and we'll probably host close to 400 events in 2025. So get vetted, join us, and don't forget to subscribe to Girl Camper Magazine. This is Janine. Thanks for showing today.